Okay, today we begin a brand new section of the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Actually, before we get there, let me just conclude at the end of the last section that we were learning about, and then that will bring us to a new section. We've been speaking about foods that are made by a non-Jew and how, one of the main reasons for this was to prevent intermarriage. To prevent that, the rabbis instituted that certain foods may only be cooked or made by a Jew. And so we spoke about a number of different foods. We spoke about bread. We spoke about other cooked foods. We spoke about milk. Cheese is another interesting one. Now, the way that real cheese would be made would be by taking rennet. Now, rennet comes in two forms. Either it comes in the form of where they actually would take a piece of the lining of the stomach of a cow's stomach. That's one type of rennet. The lining of the stomach has an agent that causes a chemical reaction that causes cheese to be made. So that's one type of rennet. One type of rennet is where they take a little strip of the stomach and they chuck it into the milk, and it causes the milk to turn into cheese. Another type of rennet, I'm talking about authentic stuff, not the artificial stuff that they make today. Another type of rennet is where they don't take a piece of the lining of the stomach, but they take some of the cheese in the stomach, in a cow's stomach, and that's cheesy milk in the cow's stomach. So the cow eats whatever it does or drinks whatever it does, and then in the stomach it has some of this what looks like cheese, and that again is an agent that makes milk become cheese. So if you're making real cheese with real rennet, then you would either use this rennet milk from the stomach of the cow, or you'll use the lining of the stomach, which also has this agent that causes this chemical reaction for milk to become cheese. Now, if you were to make cheese using the milk inside the mother's stomach, so that actually is not a problem, because it's considered like just a chemical. It's not considered kosher or not kosher. But if you were to use the actual lining of the stomach, so if the cow wasn't slaughtered, wasn't shechted, then obviously the lining of the stomach, like every part of the animal, will not be kosher. Now, if you're going to use that to make your milk turn into cheese, then it means that the cheese that you've made was actually made through non-kosher meat. Interestingly enough, you think you're eating a piece of cheese, but you don't realize that what made this milk cheese become cheese was a piece of non-kosher meat. So in order to ensure that this doesn't happen, the rabbis forbade buying cheese from a non-Jew. Even if you've seen the milking process and you know that the milk is all chalav Yisrael and it's kosher, and you know no other ingredients were mixed in, they were concerned that perhaps the non-Jew may put some of this lining of the stomach, which is not kosher, into the milk to accelerate or to activate the process of cheese, and then it would be not kosher. So they said, you're not allowed to buy cheese from a non-Jew, even if you know that it was made with other instruments. Even if, like today, when it's done artificially, they don't use the animal stomach for regular cheeses. Maybe expensive cheeses they do. Or if you know that they use other types of grasses, even if you know for a fact that this cheese was not made with the animal stomach, the rabbis made a decree. They instituted that cheese bought from a non-Jew is not kosher. And that's that. And that applies until today. There is no leniency for that. So I did ask the Beis Din why I noticed that on some of the cheeses, there is a Beis Din stamp and there isn't supervision at the factory. And they described that actually the companies that sell cheese with a Beis Din stamp have actually sold part of the company to a Jew. And once it's owned by a Jew, there's leniency. So that's why you can find kosher milchik cheese with a Beis Din stamp, even though the rabbis instituted that any cheese bought from a non-Jew is not kosher. So that's an interesting one. And then butter became another whole discussion. Is butter the same as cheese, or is it not the same as cheese? So it depended on, in different communities, there were different customs. So this is what he speaks about in the final two halachos of foods, non-kosher foods. So cheese made by a non-Jew is forbidden. But if you supervise the milking and the making of the cheese, then If during the process the cheese was owned by a Jew, it is permitted to be eaten, as we just spoke about. So I think that clover maybe makes kosher cheese at the Beis Din step. So it means that there's actually Jewish ownership in the company. If, however, during the process it was owned by a non-Jew, it is forbidden. Can you tell if cheese has rennet? I don't think so. I mean, maybe if you're an expert, you could pick it up, but I don't think so. I mean, definitely not to the innocent person. But even if you know for a fact that it doesn't have rennet, the rabbis instituted a law that any cheese bought from a non-Jew is not kosher. So now it doesn't make a difference if it has a rennet or not. Either way, it's not kosher. The only difference would be if, let's say, you bought the cheese from a Jew and you weren't sure what he used, so maybe then that's the question would be relevant. As far as butter, is it considered like cheese or not considered like cheese? So it depends on the custom of various localities. There are communities that do not eat butter made by a non-Jew. There are other communities that do permit its use. If you travel from a community where the butter is not eaten to one where it is eaten, even though you plan to return to your original community, you can eat with the community that you're in. And if you travel from a community where the butter is eaten to a place where it is not, you may not eat the butter. Presently, at the time of the author, it is rumored that the butter is adulterated with lard. Therefore, conscientious Jews should refrain from using it. The discussion about butter, so there was another concern about cheese, which I didn't mention. The concern was that inside the cheese, there might be drops of milk, which come from a non-kosher animal. Now, butter, I think is, I forgot the details now. I think maybe it's heated up in a way that there is no remnants of liquid as opposed to cheese, which could have. And that's part of the reason for the difference. I don't remember right now, but the tachlis, the bottom line is that both cheese is a problem if it's bought from a non-Jew, and there's no leniency for that. And butter, it will depend on the community that you're in. So that brings us to the end of the laws of foods of a non-Jew. And now we move on to the next topic, which is